Today, we're looking at a brown ink by Pelikan, their 4001 Brilliant Brown. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. There's timestamps down below where you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Now you can follow me on Instagram as an ink guy, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, don't forget to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Noodler's Neponset with a music nib. I wrote with it for a day. I then used it to take the notes for this video. This first writing sample is done with a standard set of paper, Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, there are additional writing samples that will occur later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 8 seconds to dry. Now, medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and there's more shading for it being darker. Look at dog, starts mid, gets dark. Lazy starts dark, goes mid. Over starts light, gets dark. It's very strange that it got more shading for being darker, but 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine is showing more color variation we got. The medium shows none, but we got decent. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than everything else on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 20 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get any. And then there's Rhodia with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is just a tad lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Medium, quite a bit darker than everything else on the paper with no feather spread, halo sheen. There's spots of shading. Fox starts darker, gets a little lighter in the F, much darker into the O. Brown starts very dark, works its way into a mid-tone. Quick goes from dark to mid-tone to dark. Nice. It's very subtle, very nice here. 13 seconds to dry, respectable. Extra fine shows quite a bit of color variation left to right, although I didn't get it. The medium shows none, but I did get it in the writing sample for medium. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see at the bottom of this first one a very, very light turquoise color, and it's pushing its way up to where we're getting into a very dark orange. And then at the very top, I see the faintest hint of a purple line at the top. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I am really seeing that purple line. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. Now, that turquoisey color at the bottom is harder to see, but it is kind of there. It's a little more gathered. The dark orange was very slow working its way up the page, really ate up a lot of the space of that turquoise, leaving some ink as it goes along. But I think we can see little hints of that purple a little bit better in this one than we could the first chromatography. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel confident using this in a note-taking situation. It didn't spread all over the place, become a blurry, gross mess. It held to where I can easily read everything that was there. Now, water is lifting all of those orange tones, but really leaving that turquoise, and it's kind of grayed a little bit, but the orange is going, but not all the ink is going. Now, Pen flush. If you look around the edges, it's really breaking it up. Right around the edge, you do start to see the white of the paper coming through, which means pen flush is the most you would need to get this out of your pen. The 1/3 bleach solution, it's removing it entirely from the paper, but there's no need to use it to clean your pen. I test for viscosity or flow using a thing called a tilt test. I will link how I do that, the video of it, down below or up in the cards. I also then put it onto a standard distribution so it's more easily seen with all of the inks that I've tested. Now, for the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Pelikan 4001 Brown has a viscosity of 2.12, making it on the lower side of normal, but still normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Pelikan 4001 Brown has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making this a faster drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Pelikan 4001's brown, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, that very light turquoisey color at the bottom of the chromatographies made me want to use a turquoise so that they could complement very well. So I chose Private Reserve's Blue Suede. The second writing sample is done on P. Berger, black and red, and Vinta paper. Here we're looking at P. Berger paper. It's a student grade French ruled paper, a lot of bleeding, a lot of ghosting, really can't use the back of the page, but it's not ruled for that anyway. But it did not touch the page underneath, so there's the saving grace. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Now the extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than everything else on the page, but it has a lot of feathering. The word quick, tons of feathering. The word lazy, tons of feathering. Over, tons of feathering. All tiny feathering, not the kind that would stop you from being able to read what you had. No spread, halo sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both, show no color variation, and we didn't get it in the writing. Black and red. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Extra fine is slightly lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than everything else there, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both, show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. Last up is Vinta Notebooks, the Modern Traveler. So, just because I have my notes on this, we do get quite a bit of bleeding when it comes through the medium, but it's not touching the page underneath. It does give us some show through or ghosting, but it is not too bad. Again, this is a pocket notebook, so that's acceptable under those circumstances. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is about just a hair lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. Fantastic for a pocket notebook. Medium is quite a bit darker than everything on the page, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both, show us no color variation in either, and we didn't get it in either, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Brown? There's been a lot of the 4001 series that I haven't cared for, and this one was a really welcome surprise. This was a nice brown that went down with some decent shading. Not tons of shading, just little bits. This brown stands as a nice brown on its own. It's also nice that this is one of my more preferred inks from that 4001 line. So what nib and pen is going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I found that there is a slight red lean in this brown when you're using medium to dry pens. But if you use a wet pen, you don't see that red lean, but you get an interesting brown that's coming down onto the page. So it's your preference on which you'd prefer. If you've made it this far, and according to my analytics, 50% of you aren't, and you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed, I would invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.